Hello everyone, Ryan here. So, it's that magical time once again. That's right. Time for my monthly wrap-up. My March wrap-up. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like these months are going by a little faster than usual. I don't know, maybe it is just me, maybe it's because I'm getting a little older. Not that I think of myself to be quote-unquote old, but yeah, I don't know. So anyways, I'll get right into it here. First book I read, or actually listened to, was an audiobook. It's titled At the Edge of Uncertainty. Discoveries Taking Science by Surprise. It's by Michael Brooks. And this is like a preloaded MP3 player type thing. It's pretty cool. I mean, they're called Playaway, the all-in-one audiobook. All you gotta do is plug in some headphones, and you can take it with you wherever you want. So, and I first started listening to this when I want to say back sometime in the beginning of March, and I was pulling the weeds out in my backyard while listening to this. I found it very interesting, very intriguing, because it mostly deals with a lot of things, a lot of scientific discoveries that, when they were first made, they weren't considered to be valid enough to be shared with the public. Of course, now we take them for granted, such as the fact that, DNA exists. I mean, there was actually a time when people had no idea what DNA was. I mean, obviously people knew what blood was and, tissue samples and whatnot. But yeah, as far as DNA, people had really no idea. So I will, of course, I plan on reviewing this in a separate video later. But I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. Pretty interesting. If you're into scientific stuff, I recommend checking it out, listening to it. Of course, there is a actual physical book version of this, but this audiobook version is, I'd say, probably just as equally interesting. As equally, what's the word? Attention grabbing. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, next one I read, which I really hadn't planned on reading so quickly, is Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. Sorry, I still can't really figure out how to pronounce the last name. This is, of course, more of a, I guess you could say, kind of like a collection of poetry, except that each poem doesn't have a title. Each poem is not considered to be a separate poem because it's more of a collection, a larger collection of different thoughts. In fact, I'll say, more like a lot of thoughts that are interconnected. It's pretty much divided into different sections. First section, the hurting. Second section is the loving, and then the breaking, and finally the healing. Actually, I definitely enjoy this. I mean, I will say that I wouldn't consider the poems in here to be really earth-shattering or anything really too unique or too shocking. But still, I consider it to be pretty interesting, very well thought out, or at least somewhat well thought out poems that ultimately deal with, for me, I interpreted them as dealing with, the authors, or poets rather, personal opinions when it comes to dealing with, things like heartbreak and loneliness and longing and things like that. So, yeah, I don't know. Of course, I'll review this separately also. sometime later. Next one I read, which I'm still kind of reading, but I believe once I upload this, I should be finished with it. Constellation of Vital Phenomena by Anthony Mara. And this one is very compelling too. I like the writing style. The author's writing style is very descriptive, but also very fluid at the same time. I mean, there are parts where, I ended up reading something like 10, 20 pages very quickly, and I didn't even realize it. So I think that's one of the one of the marks of a good writer. Yeah, I mean, to me it is. I also would like to eventually purchase my own copy of this. That way I can reread it and then take my time with it. So I checked out this copy from my local library, and I got to return it really soon, like by the end of this week, pretty much. So, yeah, I definitely want to reread it, take my time with it. Yeah, I haven't decided yet if I will do a review on this, because I feel like, well, I mean, I will review it later, but I don't exactly know how thoroughly I can review it, other than just give my own basic opinion on it, because it's one of those novels that I feel deserves to be reviewed as thoroughly as possible. I mean, obviously, just like any other book, but this one especially, there are some, that do require at least a certain amount of thoroughness. I don't know. Anyways. I also read this graphic novel, Harley Quinn and Her Gang of Harleys. Of course, published by DC Comics. I really enjoyed this one too. Definitely. And I like the story. I really had no idea about this storyline before. It's supposed to be sometime when Harley, she, I guess, kind of gets tired of being a bad guy, and she decides to start helping people, but then she realizes that she can't help everybody by herself, so she decides to recruit her own gang, and they end up becoming her Harleys, and they all have their own names. Like there's like Harlem Quinn, and there's even a male, I guess, there's a guy who's one of her Harleys, and it's pretty interesting because that character alone is pretty diverse, and in the way that he interacts with everyone else in the gang, but also with the different criminals that he comes across. And so, I mean, just that character alone is pretty diverse. But then add to that, you have like the rest of the gang, who's also adds even more diversity. So makes for a very interesting storyline. In this volume, I like that there's a lot of comedic elements to it. One of the first gangs that they end up having like a little battle with, or a little scuffle with, is this gang of hipsters. These people who are consider themselves to be part of a hipster mafia of some kind. It's pretty funny because the jokes that they crack, they're actually smart. It wasn't just like, they weren't just, hurling insults at each other. They were, cracking some pretty smart jokes, I feel. Yeah, I don't know. And I guess mostly it reminded me of some friends of mine I have who consider themselves to be hipsters. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not hip to the whole hipster culture thing, but but then I don't really like paying attention to labels or anything. So, and there's a villain in this, which I don't want to give away, but the villain is she's she's very pretty cynical, but with a good reason. And then there's also some cameos by some other well-known DC Comics characters. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I believe this is something that everybody should read at least once, especially for those who want to read a graphic novel or who are looking to read any kind of story with really, you know, what's the word? With a really good amount of diversity throughout. Yeah. So definitely, of course, I'll be reviewing this as well at a later date, a separate video. And last thing I read is another graphic novel, Justice League 3001, also by DC Comics. I think originally when I talked about this, I don't remember what previous video I talked about this. Originally I thought this was 9001 because the library barcode here covered up the thing, but you know, it's my bad. So it's not 9001, it's 3001. Essentially what this is about is, of course, it's like 1,000 years after the original Justice League existed. So 3001, and the Justice League, they are resurrected. But what it is, you know, they have like some scientist who uses their DNA and he mixes it with the DNA of some other people, which I guess are considered to be like host bodies or something. And eventually the stronger DNA wins out, takes hold, which happens to be the DNA of members of the Justice League. So such as, you know, of course, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and then also the Green Lantern and the Flash. But in this version, it's a female Green Lantern and female Flash. And so, but essentially their DNA is mixed with, it's kind of like, I guess, they're supposed to embody both genders, both male and female, in one body. And it's very interesting. I mean, I don't want to get too into it right now because I will review this later. It's pretty interesting. And the storyline is very interesting too. I want to say I think it might be just a little too complicated, a little too complex for just, you know, what's the word? I kind of lost my train of thought. The storyline seems just a little too complex, but ultimately, I mean, it's not really that hard to understand. It's just because it has to do with like certain details, like that they talk about, as far as like how exactly they were resurrected and what exactly they're capable of and not capable of. Because of course, this Justice League, they do have certain limitations, such as this Superman. He's not able to fly for some reason. He doesn't have that ability. And then also, too, he doesn't have the ability to shoot lasers out of his eyes. He doesn't have that. I think pretty much what he does have is super strength and super speed, but up to a certain point. Not as fast as the original Superman, but still pretty fast. So, and then this Wonder Woman, too, she has some limitations. Same with Batman. So, yeah. Again, I don't want to get too into it, but I will be reviewing it at a later date in a separate video. Yeah. So that'll pretty much do it for my March wrap-up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Till next time, don't forget, remember, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.